of State Adrian Fuentes says that he believes those threats came from hostile nations, specifically Russia.
So because of these threats, the Navajo Nation is actually reporting a number of issues at their polling places. This is both in Navajo County and Apache County. So just in at this hour, we want to let you know that a judge has ruled that 9 polling locations on the Navajo Nation are going to be able to stay open until 9 tonight. So that's an additional 2 more hours, and it's due to a multitude of issues that they say they experienced up there with residents who were trying to vote, including machine issues, the lack of both printed and provisional ballots. You're seeing some pictures of the very long lines and then denials of state-approved IDs. So the Navajo Nation is telling us that, in fact, one person had to sign a provisional ballot because of the issues with the county's system. Let's listen into that.
Our people need answers because we have every right, if we're registered and already within the system, the right to vote. Having an available ballot on hand is something that we're trying to address. Very late into the evening now. I notice polling places are about to close.
All right, we continue to track those major races tonight here in Arizona that could play a key role in who becomes the next leader of our country. In fact, Arizona, one of 7 battleground states. So there you have both former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. And right now, according to ABC News and their projections, 10 states have already been called for former President Trump, 4 states for VP Harris.
Of course, the conversation as well, who will represent Arizona in the U.S. Senate? Ruben Gallego, Kari Lake, Michael Norton. We'll get to all of that throughout the evening and look at those numbers when they start to roll in just about an hour. We also want to let you know the Arizona Republican Party is not holding a party nor a gathering tonight. So our Rachel Louise Just is with Kari Lake tracking the Senate race, but we start with our candidate coverage tonight. We'll check in with our Nick Saletti live at the Democratic election night headquarters. Nick, it's starting to get a little more busy behind you there.
Yeah, Katie, good evening. Yeah, so the party now has just begun here at Democratic headquarters in Phoenix. You can probably hear the music blaring here behind me. Folks here anxious to get that first round of results coming at about 8 o'clock. But I want to go ahead and bring in ABC15 political reporter Ben Brown right now, who's been following all of these races. Now, Ben, I was talking to some of my Democratic sources, and I'll tell you, they were a little nervous when they saw the number of early votes for Republicans, and then when they saw the day of turnout for Republicans. It gave them some pause today, but what are you hearing from your sources?
Yeah, Nick, so Democratic sources I've talked to and people within the Harris campaign, they tell me they're cautiously optimistic. Now, they're pointing to 2020 when Republicans also outpaced Democrats in that race, and obviously that ended up in favor of President Joe Biden. He ended up winning the state of Arizona. Now, they think Democrats are going to show up today on Election Day as opposed to that early voting. So we'll have to see if that turns out to be the case as we get our first batch here in about an hour.
Yeah, I know they're also hoping that the independents here in Arizona break towards them by a large share. They'd have to in order to make up some of that ground. I want to ask you, you mentioned that first round of ballots will get in less than an hour now. You've been covering all of these races since the very beginning, Ben. What signs are you looking for in that first ballot drop?
Look, Nick, these campaigns are going to be more different. They both have different messaging, right? The Harris campaign is about unity, turning the page, starting fresh. Whereas the Trump campaign is focused on inflation and the border and asking voters, hey, are you better off now than you were under a Trump administration? We'll have to see which message resonates, but both campaigns are trying to peel off little pockets of voters, the Hispanic vote, Native vote, the black voter, and these Gen Z voters, and we'll see which messaging really turns out to be effective here in just a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think this race will definitely be one that will be won in the margins with those groups, as you mentioned. Also, we talked about how the get out the vote tactics have differed greatly. We know the Trump campaign has kind of farmed that out to groups like Turning Point, whereas the Harris campaign has really taken a lot of that on to try to make it more grassroots and do it themselves. Like you said, we'll see which strategy pays off. Our Ben Brown, one of our political reporters, thank you for all of your terrific reporting this season. We'll check back in with you in just a little bit. Meantime, we're manning Democratic Party headquarters, and we'll let you know when those results come in, and of course, bring you that reaction live.
Another key race tonight is the Senate race. And while it hasn't necessarily been competitive, at least in polling for a few months now, not to count Kari Lake out yet because Republicans are maintaining a 200,000 ballot advantage right now statewide. Now, those ballots don't necessarily guarantee a vote for Kari Lake, of course, but it's a promising sign for the conservative candidate who has run on her ties to Donald Trump. Lake has been confident in the final weeks of her campaign that she would be victorious, citing internal polling that showed she was ahead of Congressman Ruben Gallego. Now, Lake has not said if she would accept the results of the election should she lose, and she has broken tradition for a race like this by not throwing an election night party. She's watching the results in from home, is what I am told. Now back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Rachel, thank you. Yes, once again, no GOP party tonight. We will have more from Nick as well. Arizona is one of 7 key swing states to watch. There are 11 electoral votes here among our 15 counties. 8 of the last 12 presidential election winners also won Arizona, right here in the Grand Canyon State. Just highlights the outsized role of voting here in Arizona and the role we play in this election.
Absolutely. All eyes have been on Arizona for quite some time, and several states closed their polls just hours ago. So we want to check in with our Christine Stanwood at our National Alert Desk. What are you seeing?
Javier, Katie, most polls across the country are closed except for the West Coast, and we're seeing that reflected on the electoral map where several states have already been called. Okay, let's take a look at where we stand right now. Former President Trump sitting at 154 electoral votes. Vice President Kamala Harris at 27. Let's talk about a couple of big wins for each candidate. The first, former President Trump securing Florida, which was not surprising. And most recently, Nebraska. Harris just securing New York and Illinois. Big picture, though, we are waiting on those key battleground states like Katie, as you mentioned, right here in Arizona. Then, of course, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Guys?
All right, along with the race to the White House and U.S. Senate, Arizona also decides tonight who will represent them in the House.
Yeah, all 9 seats are up for election. Some of the big ones to watch: House District 1, that's Dr. Amish Shah, challenging incumbent David Schweikart. CD1 has nearly 800,000 residents. This is in northeastern Maricopa County.
And House District 2, where former Navajo Nation President Jonathan Nez is challenging incumbent Eli Crane. The district is one of the largest geographically across the entire nation, including 12 Native American reservations.
Another one to watch closely is House District 6. Could be a close one. It's a rematch again between Republican incumbent Juan Ciscomani, who narrowly defeated Democrat Kristen Engel in 2022. All
right, here to add some insight and, of course, crunch the numbers for us, as always, our guru analyst, Garrett Archer. He's joined by our Faye Fredericks.
We're about 50 minutes away for that first big numbers drop. What are the storylines that we should be aware of as we head into this?
Oh, well, there are a lot of things we are going to be tracking, guys, throughout the evening. Want to go back to that national map because we are starting to see it filled out a little bit more, and want to talk about some notable margins of victory and some unusual counties that you've been noticing as you take a look at this map getting filled out now.
Yeah, well, let's start. I can't get to the counties. This is not a county map, but one of the most interesting counties that we're seeing is actually in Florida. Miami-Dade, a county that has been a Democratic stronghold for quite some time, has flipped 10 points and is now Donald Trump is leading that county. That's a pretty interesting phenomena as far as just seeing something like Miami County. It just shows what sort of world we live in right now, in that we're actually talking about a Republican winning Miami-Dade.
And one of the reasons it's really unusual is because it really is an incredibly international city and county. It has a very large Cuban American population, has a large Haitian population as well, and many other nationalities are represented there, naturalized citizens. So what else are you noticing on the national map right now?
So right now I have this filled in. You can see a lot of it is starting to fill in. We have 30 for Harris and 154 for Trump, but of course those 154 are pretty much all states that you'd expect to see. We have not had a call yet of one of these critical swing states. These yellow states highlighted right here, these are the states that are the 7 swing states. states. We just had our polls closed. Nevada, Wisconsin we are getting results from Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. You can see that right now, as far as the lead, which is that lighter shade for each color, Trump is leading in Georgia and North Carolina. Harris is leading in Pennsylvania and Michigan. And this is interesting because this is exactly where analysts say the road for each of their White House runs was going to go through. If Harris was going to win, it was going to go through the Rust Belt states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And if Trump was going to win, it was going to go through the Sun Belt states of Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina.
And of course, it all matters where exactly these votes are coming from. Are they coming from the cities or are they coming from the counties? One quick last thing I want to talk about is the Senate and control of the Senate right now. We do have one flip so far.
Yes, we do. We have what we've seen is that the call has been made for West Virginia. And of course, that was an expected call for Republicans. That does put the a balance of power at 50-50. Excuse me. What's interesting, of course, is that again, analysts have been expecting Republicans to take the Senate because the next crucial seat that they're waiting to see is from Montana, which of course is a heavily Republican Republican state. And so, again, you expect to see, and we've seen polling, in fact, that says that the Republican is likely also going to take the Senate seat there. So that right there would do it, just those two seats.
West Virginia, to remind all the folks at home, this is Joe Manchin's former seat. So not unexpected that this was going to flip plus Republicans. Texas, Ted Cruz, the Republican incumbent there, he's been in a fairly tight race polling-wise leading up. What are you seeing out of Texas right now?
Well, the last I checked, it was about 52-47 Cruz versus Allred. That was about half the votes in. That's a very good position to be in if you're a Republican. You kind of want to see that.
Okay. And we are expecting results now to come in very shortly. What's the one key thing that you're going to be looking for?
I think based on what I've seen as far as the party balance of who has voted, I really think that 8 p.m. drop is going to be absolutely critical. Whoever is winning at that moment is probably going to continue winning throughout the rest of the night.
Okay, guys, you heard it. We're going to really keep our eye very closely on what happens here in Arizona when we get those numbers at 8 o'clock.
Faye, Garrett, thank you. Ahead of the election, ABC15 traveled the state, listening to more than 100 people from the high country to the southern border and all across the valley, hearing their concerns and issues impacting them as they head to the ballot box.
In fact, I traveled across the valley, and here's what a Scottsdale small business owner had to say. Rinaldi's deli owner, John Sayag, says he's still trying to rebound from COVID.
It was rough, but thank God for my regulars. They used to always come in and keep me open.
People who started out as customers are now considered family.
Literally, maybe 80% of my customers, I have a great personal relationship. I got their cell phones. Like I said once before, they invite me to their weddings, their baptisms, their engagement parties, their birthdays. I'm always around them.
And they continue to come back despite raising prices due to rising costs.
Everything has gone up. Eggs are over $5 a dozen right now. Bacon is sky high. My beef is going up.
Thankfully, customers love the food.
What do you think about Rinaldi's?
Unbelievably good, isn't it? First time I've been there.
Oh.
Didn't even know it was here.
John is hoping to be here for years to come, but knows something has to give. When people come in here, anybody talking about politics or what needs to change in the upcoming election?
Economy. And we need peace in this world.
And we heard that time and time again, especially starting with the economy. So many voters out there said that was number one.
Across cities, all around the state, really,
absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And then we heard world peace having to do with the war in Gaza, saying that things need to be fixed there. And so, again, we traveled all across the state just listening to our voters.
Yeah, many of the voters that we spoke with echoed that, like I said, no matter where we were. I sat down with some first-time voters over at Mesa Community College. You remember that first time you were able to cast your ballot, and I listened to their hopes and voting motives.
Without voting, nothing could be done.
These students know the power of their vote, and they know what's important to them in their first political season.
Human rights. I think the access that everybody should have, the say over their own personal choices in their own body. I think that's something that's very powerful and something that's very important to me. And I think protecting democracy.
Their hopes are straightforward.
I'm just hoping that there's an economy for me to have a job when I get out of school.
They might be new to the voting booth, but they are sage enough to realize items down ballot could sometimes affect their daily lives the most.
I think it's important that young voters know about the propositions, go into detail, do your own research, come up with their own conclusion of what you think should happen. Because at the end of the day, those propositions affect us.
Either way, they just hope other young voters will take time to make sure their voices are heard.
I just think that this is a very crucial time to vote, and I think that I see a lot of hatred and a lot of dehumanization in society amongst people who have different values and views.
So in all of this, our goal was to simply give voters a voice, and tonight they're making their voices heard through the democratic process, showing up to vote even when there are long lines.
Long lines indeed. So what demographics could benefit each party as far as turnout? Diving deeper into this all is our Christelle Bell and our political roundtable. Hey, Christelle.
Yeah, Christelle Bell here, voice of America Votes, and election coverage continues. So we're having our panel discussion. We're talking about what demographics we're seeing that's going to turn out for the voters of the election tonight. We know that we've seen a lot of people talk about how white women can determine this race as far as the presidential election. I know you were interested, Reginald, in they're talking about how we could see, or what you want to see would happen with suburban white women. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, one of the things that have been, that has amplified Arizona has been Prop 139, which is the abortion initiative, and sort of the combination of younger voters, voters of color, and women. That was sort of their pathway to victory, and within that was white suburban women. But when you look at some of the data, you're seeing a lot of white women leaning toward Trump. But that's not synonymous, the lean toward Trump, but they also look like they're supporting Prop 139. So I'm really curious to see the probable success of Prop 139. Will that translate to Harris support? And I'm not sure at this time.
Yeah, what are we talking about as far as with male voters, that young male voter coming out for Trump? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. If you take Arizona as a swing state and look at the data we're seeing right now, we have 0 of 3 independent voters. That means they have not voted for the last 3 elections. 50% of them are male voters. That's the exact target demographic that a lot of these PACs on the Trump side of the ledger, like Elon Musk America PAC, were targeting. If they were successful in turning out that segment of the voting population, that could serve potentially as a counterbalance to what we saw in 2020 with white suburban women who went strongly for Biden over Trump.
Yeah, and what do you go? I mean, and when you also look at the terms of when we look down and start to see party lines splitting, we see here in Arizona, we have Proposition 139, and folks are not necessarily leaning towards Trump. It's going to be very tricky to see what happens because they may not necessarily, and it goes back to that white woman vote, we might not see the same situation as straight Republican or straight Democrat in this particular election.
No, I think it's highly unlikely. That said, this is one of the first elections I can remember that hours into it, we still have no idea what direction this is going. I think you look at places, big turnout in Philadelphia, that hasn't come out. She's overperforming some places in Pennsylvania, in Virginia, a little closer than it probably most people expected. She's going to win it. And so there's not really a definitive picture of what's happening yet. And that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. I mean, and then I also like your point of view because you talked about it. We didn't see a lot of, do you feel like Harris did enough to separate herself from Biden? Because we understand, you said in 2020, it wasn't necessarily people voting for Biden. It was people actually just not wanting Trump.
I do believe that. I do believe that really very few people outside of maybe the state of Delaware and Biden's family actually voted for him. They really voted against Donald Trump. And that does, Harris has done, from my perspective as a professional Republican, she's done enough Her debate was good enough. Her speeches have been good enough. She hasn't really offered much of a vision outside of Democrat talking points, but she's done her part. So to me, both here in Arizona and around the country, it's really a referendum on Donald Trump. Do they want to go back to the Trump years? Are they willing to have, a strong 401k and low inflation, but put up with some of the bad that goes with Donald Trump as well? So that's sort of the big story so far.
All right, we'll continue this discussion coming up in our next half hour. We're not done. We'll send it back to you guys.
Okay, Christelle, thank you. Now let's take a look at some of the other races on Arizona's ballot tonight that we should be getting numbers on in just about 40 minutes.
Yeah, again, Arizonans deciding who will represent them in Congress. House District 4 sees incumbent Greg Stanton challenged by Kelly Cooper. Now, this district includes Ahwatukee, parts of Tempe, Mesa, and Chandler.
We're also watching House District 5. That includes parts of Mesa, Chandler, Gilbert, Queen Creek, and Santan Valley. Katrina Schaffner is challenging incumbent Andy Biggs. Biggs, though, seeking his 5th term here.
House District 7 is the second largest congressional district across the state, running along the Arizona-Mexico border. We're seeing Raul Grijalva is being challenged by Daniel Frances Gutierrez Sr.
Our election coverage continues all night long. Back after this. We want to welcome all of you in. Thanks for choosing us on this election night. I'm Katie Rammel.
And I'm Javier Soto. Months of campaigning across the country comes down to tonight as millions of Arizonans already voting today, deciding who will win this historic race for president.
That's right. And we're kicking off our team coverage right now. ABC15 investigator Nicole Grigg is live at the Maricopa County Tabulation and Election Center. First of all, Nicole, we're glad to see you're safe. We want to know if there's anything more on the bomb threat that has been placed there tonight.
Yeah, Katie, that is some breaking news that we have been following about a block away from where I'm standing, which inside here is where ballots are being counted. There is a bomb threat that the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office is investigating. This is inside Superior Court, which is where the recorder's office is located. The Sheriff's Office says this was a threat made, but they do not, this is similar to the threats made across the country, and that they do not believe there is credible information. As for those polls closing, we can start to expect to see the first batch of results coming in just about an hour, less than an hour now at 8 o'clock. We will expect to see 1.2 million ballots, votes released in that first batch of results. Those results will be made up of those early ballots that were mailed in before Tuesday. We can expect to see more results coming in about the 9 and 10 o'clock hour as well. So stay with us here on election night. Live in Phoenix, Nicole Grigg, ABC 15 Arizona.
Nicole, thank you. And with polls closing just about 30 minutes ago, dozens, though, are still waiting in line. Let's send it out to Jen Kovaleski to find out what's happening out there. Jen?
Katie, we are here at Mesa Community College. We've been here all afternoon. We are now at the end of the line. These folks right here are the last people who are going to be able to vote at this polling location. The guy in the Hawaiian shirt, he's the marshal. He signifies the end of this line. We talked to one of the gentlemen, Mike, here. He said he rushed here from work, got up at 6 o'clock and barely made it, but he is going to make sure that his voice is heard tonight. People have waited here for an hour to 2 hours to vote all throughout the day. We're being told that right now the wait is still about 2 hours for all of these people in line, but everybody in line will get to vote. They will get to cast a ballot here. We also learned some new information that about at least 2,000 voters have cast a ballot at this polling location alone. And that's not including all of the people that you see in line. And you can see it's actually moving. Let's move in with the line. It goes all the way out the door still, which it has for probably the last 2 or 3 hours since worked in for a lot of folks, and goes all the way in here. And voting is actually happening in the library. So there are hundreds of people still in line waiting to cast their ballot out here. For now, we are live in Mesa. Jennifer Kovaleski, ABC 15 Arizona.
Every vote matters. Thank you so much, Jen.
And it shows how important this election has been to so many people leading up to tonight. So you're going to want to stick with ABC 15 all night. Catch our continuous election night coverage on ABC 15, as well as our streaming app on your TV, your phone, or abc15.com, where we'll continue to bring those updates.
That's right. You can watch on multiple devices right now. You can watch ABC right here on television. Turn it on your phone, where we're streaming and have been throughout the evening. You'll see more of the local results on our programming and some of the national results here with David Meir and the crew at ABC News. You are looking at a live picture as they are counting all those ballots for us. Stay with us throughout the night. We just finished cutting in with some of our audiences on the television side. We want to join you back for all of you who have stayed with us on the streaming side here, where we are anticipating some of the local numbers coming out in about 30 minutes. We're glad you're choosing us on this special election night. I'm Katie Rammel.
And I'm Javier Soto. Again, we're about 30 minutes away from the first ballot drop. And according to the Secretary of State's office, Adrian Fontes says there are 4.3 million voters in Arizona. That's about 120,000 more than in 2020. Arizona allows for ballot tabulation before election day, so that 8 o'clock ballot drop could be about 50% of the total.
Yeah, it could be huge. And while the projections will be made earlier, the official numbers, those won't be done until, say, 10 to 13 days after the election.
Polling locations across the valley, we have seen long lines, especially in the evening from the east to the west. But one area that's been specifically active has been ASU's Tempe campus, and that's where we find our Lillian Donahue tonight. Lillian.
It's still so many people out here. We know that polls closed 30 minutes ago, and there were people running up and down the line behind me with bullhorns, telling people to get into line as just minutes and seconds before this deadline. You can still see, though, that the line is coming out of the polling center right now. Everybody here still has the chance to vote. I just spoke with a man who said that he waited 2 hours, hundreds of people in the line wrapping around the building just to get inside, and then it took another 45 minutes to an hour for him to go through everything and be informed about everything that he had to vote with. We also spoke with the last person that made it in seconds before they closed off the line here. He said that he is proud to have gotten here. He had classes and work all day, but rushed again to here to make sure that he has his voice heard. He said he wasn't expecting to be the very last person here at Tempe, but it's been a very busy day. People are passing out food, they're passing out water, they've been passing out, of course, election materials as well. But it's been a very busy day. People are running around with music, dancing. A very interesting thing. People might not agree on their candidates or their positions, but they do all agree that, you know, there is such a surge in voter participation, especially this year here at ASU Tempe campus. Reporting in Tempe, Lillian Donahue, ABC15 Arizona. Back
Lillian,
to you.
thank you. With ballot counting underway, we want to check in with our Nicole Gregg. She's live over at Maricopa County's election headquarters. She's been talking with election officials about how the day is going. For those of you who are just with us when we were on television as well, Nicole was giving us an update on the bomb scare out there too. Nicole?
Yeah, hi, Katie. So I am at the election headquarters here in Maricopa County, and a block away from here, there was a bomb threat made to Superior Court, which is where the recorder's office is located. Now, Maricopa County Sheriff's Office telling me that they believe that this threat is similar to the threats that they are seeing across the country on election day. They say that there is no credible information, though, to this threat. So they're going through and doing a sweep of the building as employees inside there were evacuated. As for here, this is where your ballots are counted, and inside it's all hands on deck here. Now, those polls closing here in about 30 minutes. We can expect to see the first batch of results at 8 p.m. and we're expecting about 1.2 million of your votes to be released in this first round of results. Those will be the election early ballots that were mailed in before Tuesday. After that, we can expect to see more result drops in the 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock hour. So you can count on us to be following when those results come in throughout the night. And I can tell you, it's going to be all hands on deck all night. We're live in Phoenix. Nicole Gregg, ABC 15, Arizona.
Sure is. Got our coffee, our tea. We're in for a long night tonight. Nicole, thank you. Tonight, Arizona voters are weighing in on several big county races as well. We'll be tracking those, including this one. Voters choose the next Maricopa County attorney. So it would be between incumbent Rachel Mitchell and challenger Tamika Wooten.
Also in Maricopa County, voters will choose the next county sheriff. On the ballot, Jerry Sheridan versus Tyler Camp.
Voters will also decide who will oversee voting in the future in Maricopa County by choosing the next Maricopa County recorder, casting a vote for either Tim Stringham or Justin Heap. In Arizona, no stranger to a lot of election day questions and vote count challenges, some that drag on for weeks and months and really even years.
Yeah, typically they affect local races, but you'll recall in 2020 a presidential election. But this year, ABC 15 senior investigator Melissa Blasius is telling us about the changes to state law and Arizona court rules to get all of us those final election results faster.
From
from 2020's Sharpiegate and its false claims about using markers on ballots to the razor-thin 280-vote margin in the 2022 state attorney general's race, Arizona's election day often ends in uncertainty and lawsuits.
The whole idea is to make the system run smoother and faster.
State Senator John Kavanaugh is one of the co-sponsors who pushed election reforms into law this year, including shorter timelines.
No more thumb twiddling.
That's fewer days to cure ballots, like confirming mail-in vote signatures, quicker recounts in close races, and deadlines moved up for canvassing elections at county and state levels to make the results official.
Do you feel like the legislature has done its part here to make this process as smooth as possible?
Well, we've got input from all the players. We took that into account when we passed the bill. So, yeah, I think we did a good job, and I think it'll much improve the situation over past years.
Arizona's Secretary of State sending letters to boards of supervisors in all 15 counties, reminding them your attention and adherence to legal requirements are crucial to ensure every valid ballot is counted at the local, legislative, and statewide levels.
The Arizona Supreme Court is also providing guidance to the state's judges on how to prioritize election challenges, saying that they could even delay the rulings in other cases if necessary in order to make sure that they can more quickly decide issues brought by candidates or disputes over ballot initiatives.
People are put in place after the first of the year. So as a practical matter, people need to know and to plan and to start hit the ground running.
Chief Justice Ann Timmer signed the administrative order, which also provides a specific deadline in any case regarding the presidential race to leave time for possible appeals. The judge needs to enter a ruling no later than December 6th. That's because the governor must certify the slate of electors by December 11th, and those electors must meet to vote on December 17th to comply with new federal election law and transmit the results to Congress.
It's extraordinarily difficult sometimes with those tighter timeframes, but the courts do their best, the lawyers do their best, and so do the parties.
Might be some late nights and weekends.
You're not leaving at 5, let's put it that way.
It may take overtime to cut down on uncertainty while fulfilling Arizona's democratic duty. I'm senior investigator Melissa Blasius, ABC15 Arizona.
Okay, it was a long ballot. There were several big propositions on the ballot that may have taken some time to get through, and some will impact how we vote in the future. Prop 133 requires partisan primaries and would prohibit ranked choice voting in primaries where candidates from multiple parties would run.
Well, Prop 134 has to do with signatures for voter initiatives and how they're gathered. It would require citizen ballot measures to gather signatures from 10% of every legislative district electors and signatures from 15% for constitutional amendments.
And Prop 137 would end regular judicial retention elections. So what this means is if passed, judges would only face election for poor performance or if they had a felony or bankruptcy or foreclosure.
And this was the big one. We all heard about this one. Prop 139, it's on the ballot, and if passed, it would create a state constitutional right to an abortion.
Abortion, immigration, the economy, these are all issues voters have told us are pretty big priorities when they're casting their votes.
Yeah, so what does that mean for each political party out there? We want to get over to Christelle Bell in our political roundtable to break that down. Christelle.
Yeah, good evening to you guys. You know, the discussion is already going on over here. We want to introduce to you our roundtable of experts and our panel tonight that's joining us to have this discussion and giving us their insight tonight. Over here to my far right is Mike Axelrod. He's the president and CEO of GPG Strategies. And sitting next to me, my immediate right here, Reginald Boulding, former Arizona House Democrat leader, also our Voice, Our Vote Arizona founder. Over here to my far left is Kirk Adams, former chief of staff for Doug Ducey and former speaker of the Arizona House. And then sitting next to me right here is my good friend Brian Sychek, the owner of RDP Strategies Political Consulting. Thank you guys for being with us tonight. Listen, I want to start with you, Kirk, because we've been talking about this tonight. What is the most interesting thing that you have seen in terms of demographics for this election?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing in this election is the final reorganization of the electorate. If you look at some traditional Democrat base, the traditional Democrat base, we're seeing an erosion. We're seeing exit polling, for example, that's showing Donald Trump is only running 8 points among 8 points behind among Hispanics. We're seeing other exit polling that's saying that he's splitting the young vote, the under 35 vote. Those have traditionally been very strong voting blocks for the Democrat coalition. On the flip side of that, we're seeing professional women in the suburbs that seem to be more willing to vote for Democrat candidates. So to me, the most interesting thing is we're seeing these demographic shifts for each party really start to settle in. This is not the Republican Party of Mitt Romney or George W. Bush. This is a worker party, a union party, and a party of those that maybe didn't go to college, haven't achieved that same level of education. I think that's the most fascinating thing to me is we're seeing sort of the reorganization of these two parties' bases.
But while you say there's a reorganization, I think it's also interesting to see that there's a lot of ticket splitting going on.
Yes, for sure.
So it may be more candidate specific as opposed to party specific.
Yeah.
We talked about that earlier.
I think
too.
that's a good point. And Arizona voters in particular have shown a propensity to split that ticket. We may find out today that they've done that between the presidential race and the Senate race. We'll see.
I'm struck now.
All righty. We're going to toss it back to you guys.
All right. Thank you very much. Former Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords is now walking up to the podium. We see her right there. As soon as she starts speaking, we will take her. Of course, she's standing side by side with Senator Mark
right
Kelly.
there. Yes, let's listen in.
Arizona. Hello, Democrats. Whoever picked the music, great job. So, folks, while some voters are still casting their ballots, we're about to close the book on what may be the most important election of any of our lifetimes. But now, we wait for the results to come in. Gabby, how are you feeling about things tonight? Are you feeling optimistic?
I'm optimistic. It will be a long, hard haul, but I'm optimistic.
Gabby's always optimistic. And I'm optimistic too. And Gabby's right that this could take some time. You know, we know that Arizona, we know that we do elections well. And that our election officials from both parties will do their jobs. And that what's most important is that votes are counted accurately.
Patience, patience, patience.
While we wait, we want to take a moment to thank all of you, the folks who have given so much of your time and resources to help elect the Democratic candidates we have up and down the ballot. After the success we've had building our organizing infrastructure and winning big races over the last couple of election cycles, we haven't slowed down. And this year, with the leadership of Yolanda and her team, we built the largest organization in Arizona Democratic Party history. And folks, with the leadership of Governor Hobbs, Priya, and the ADLCC, we're on the cusp of flipping the state legislature for the first time in decades. And the ground game that we've built has recruited thousands of volunteers who've knocked on doors and made phone calls to send Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to the White House. And to elect Ruben Gallego to join me in the Senate. And to flip the House with our great congressional candidates. And we're going to win back the State House and the State Senate here in Arizona. And folks, we're going to pass Proposition 139 to finally restore abortion rights. And as I said, we are going to support Democratic candidates up and down the ballot. And these are big goals. But when we work together, there's nothing we cannot do. So Gabby and I just want to say thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And have a great night, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Listening in there, Mark Kelly, Gabby Giffords, a little bit of a pep talk there at Democratic headquarters.
And we're going to hear a lot more of those as the night goes on. And I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on, to hear her and see her is always incredible and always inspiring.
Yeah, it sure is. We will continue with more from over here throughout the night. We are expecting numbers coming in. It looks like just about 15 minutes
or so.
But let's send it over to Garrett and Faye with more on how things are looking across the nation.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. About 15 minutes to go until that critical first drop. We're going to talk about why that is so incredibly critical here in Arizona. But also remember, control of the House, the Senate, and the White House all potentially running through our state right now. I want to take a look at the national map. It's certainly filling in here as we get later into the evening, is certainly back east. Garrett, what are you seeing?
Yeah, so far, now again, the solid red color is a called state. The solid blue is a called Democratic state. And you can see right now, basically the states you would expect to see: Illinois, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, all called for the Democrats. Republicans seeing rural, Midwestern states all called for Republicans. You'd expect that. The most important states here highlighted in this gold, you've got Nevada, Arizona. We're still waiting, obviously, our results in 15 minutes. Georgia, North Carolina, Trump is leading in those two crucial swing states. Harris right now leading in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. That really, if you look at the electoral map, that puts it down to basically the wire.
Yeah, absolutely. Incredibly close. Let's talk about the Senate, because obviously we have the Ruben Gallego, Carrie Lake battle going on here in Arizona. We're going to know a lot more about that in less than 15 minutes now. But what are you seeing from a national picture on the Senate?
So right now it does look like the Republicans will get control of the Senate just through the pathway of West Virginia and Montana. As far as Arizona is concerned, what we're looking for, polling has shown that Carrie Lake will or probably should run behind Donald Trump. What we don't know is how much she's going to run behind Donald Trump. So, that's, again, this 8 o'clock drop is going to mean everything, because then we will see where those sort of numbers are.
Yeah, and you said this 8 o'clock drop, it is critical, and it could really determine the tone of the entire night for so many of these candidates. Explain why, kind of on a granular level.
So, we've had a really a roller coaster of elections in the last several cycles where, one candidate will start 10 points at the 8 o'clock drop ahead of the other candidate, and then that other candidate will climb for days on end until they reach a point where the candidates are tied. That's how 2020 and 2022 went. But interestingly enough, because of the way that the early votes came in this year, we're more likely to see whoever is winning this drop at 8 p.m. could very well keep that lead, because this is going to be about 55% of the ballots coming in at 8 p.m.
And that goes across White House, it goes Senate, goes House, it could hold all across that. Do you expect that with the propositions as well?
Yes, I expect basically the propositions as well. Again, polling, we don't have polling on all the propositions, only the major ones, and polling has showed that those major ones should decisively pass.
Okay. We will keep an eye on it and keep filling in this map. But for right now, we want to send it back to you guys.
And we want to make sure we get back over to Christelle as well. We're sorry that we had to
cut away from her.
Dip in so quickly, but we wanted to hear from Senator Kelly as he took to the stage there. So, Christelle, let's send it back to you.
Okay, because it was getting good for a moment there, too. We were talking with these guys.
It's always good, Christelle.
And we want to go back now to Brian, because you were looking specifically at what's happening outside the presidential race, and we hit a blue wall with Pennsylvania specific.
Well, with North Carolina, some outlets calling North Carolina for Trump, and Georgia, Trump is currently ahead there. We're really down to the blue wall here.
Yeah.
And there's some really good numbers for Harrison, Pennsylvania, Lackawanna and Luzerne County, which is Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which flipped hard for Trump in 2016. She's winning those right now. Now, with the fact that Georgia and North Carolina have not been that close for her, that makes those Pennsylvania results really surprising. But, you know, there's been all this chatter about the blue wall, the blue wall. Well, we are there now, apparently, and that's all attention should turn to those three. That's assuming, of course, Arizona goes towards Trump, and even though we haven't seen results yet, it's hard to think that North Carolina and Georgia comfortably go to Trump, and Arizona, especially with the turnout here, goes the other way. So all eyes on Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania.
Right, right. And then we'll see what North Carolina, Georgia, and Nevada do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think when you just look at the pattern of the candidates the last week, you know, there's a reason why, you know, they're making multiple stops in those three states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan. Again, I think that pathway to victory for the Harris campaign, I think for them, they would probably say that's their #1 pathway. If they lose one of those states, it will be difficult. You know, you need an Arizona and a Nevada, which is going to be an uphill battle. So, you know, all eyes are on those three states.
And Nevada actually doesn't really matter that much. You know, if the way the other ones go, Nevada doesn't really get it done. Even if Trump wins Nevada, I mean, if he wins Nevada and she wins the three blue wall states, it's 270 to 268. So Nevada's part of the equation because it's close, but it's not really part of the matrix to 270.
I do have good news for people who want to go to bed early. We won't know.
And that is true. That is true. Yeah, you know, the other thing too, just focusing right now on Arizona and what we're seeing tonight, and what could happen here. What do you guys think will be the most interesting thing that comes out tonight out of Arizona?
Well, I mean, I'll jump in. I mean, I'm really interested to see, you know, how Pima County, you know, what the end results for Pima County. It has always been a blue county, but if the surge vote there is enough to actually mitigate some of what you're seeing in Maricopa County, also what you might see on Election Day voters, hopefully, you know, that's enough from a Democratic perspective to make some of these races competitive. So, Pima County.
Yeah, and look, for me, when you look at the Democrat party has long had a vaunted turnout machine.
Yeah.
The Republican Party this cycle, for the first time, has really invested heavily into their own turnout machine. Pima County is a great example. Can the Democrats turn out their voters in that Democrat stronghold? It's the same question you would ask about Philadelphia. Can they maximize their margins in the city of Philadelphia to make up for the rest of the counties in that state? So it's, you know, this is one thing we don't see in an election. We see polling results, we see TV commercials. What's hard to get eyes on is how these canvassing and turnout operations are really doing. And tonight's the night we find out.
Right, right. It might take a while, but we'll find out. I think we got to go. I think they want us to send it back to them. We got to wrap it up, but we'll come back to you for sure and finish this discussion. But we'll send it back to you guys.
Christelle, thank you.
Well, immigration here in Arizona, it's on the ballot tonight.
Yeah, Proposition 314 would make illegally crossing the border a state crime. It would also stiffen penalties for some fentanyl sales cases and criminalize using any false documents for benefits or a job.
Also on the ballot is Arizona votes on to fill some congressional seats in House District 8. It is open after Debbie Lesko's retirement. She's now running for Maricopa County Supervisor. But now competing for that seat are Gregory Whitten against Abe Hamadeh.
House District 9 sees Kwesi Smith challenging incumbent Paul Gosar. Our election coverage will be continuous all night long for you. We're going to pause right here on streaming as we connect with our television audience as well. We'll stay with you and be back after this very short break.
Thank you for joining us on this election night. I'm Javier Soto.
And I'm Katie Rammel. No matter what, history will be made in America this election.
If Donald Trump wins, he'll be the first president since Grover Cleveland to be voted out of the White House and then voted back in. If Vice President Kamala Harris wins, she'll be the first woman and first woman of color ever elected president.
And of course, the cornerstone issues tonight driving massive voter turnout. Let's send things over to Faye Fredericks and data guru Garrett Archer. They have a preview of what to expect as this first ballot drop of Arizona is just minutes away.
Yeah, 3 minutes to be exact, guys. And Garrett, you were just telling me, boy, Maricopa County, especially right on it at 8 o'clock. They will drop those numbers. The map blank right now. What are you expecting to see at 8?
Well, I'm expecting to see about 55% of the ballots come in, and this map will populate very quickly with all these different counties. We will see, and really this 8 o'clock drop is going to mean so much this year as far as who is in the lead. We don't have a lot of other space. We've seen a lot of the registration with Republicans and Democrats being about the same as they were in 2016. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with this map at 8 o'clock.
And two critical House races that we are watching here in Arizona, control of the House nationally at stake here this year. What are you looking at?
That's right. So Amish Shah, the Democrat challenging incumbent David Schweikert. This is one of the wealthiest districts in the country and one of our wealthiest districts. This one, we're looking to see what happens at that 8 o'clock drop. Schweikert is expected to slightly overperform Donald Trump. And so if that happens, he's in a good position. If not, this is also an area where Democrats tend to do very well. So this could be crucial to the control of the House.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about this more as the night goes on and talk about the other House race. But for right now, we want to send it back to you guys.
All right, thank you. You want to stick with ABC 15 all night. Catch our continuous election night coverage on ABC 15 on our streaming app, on your TV, phone, or at ABC15.com.
We will continue streaming there for you. And a reminder, those numbers just coming in within minutes. We'll be right here with you throughout the evening as America votes 2024. All right, we want to welcome back in our streaming audience as we pause just for a moment to welcome in our television audience as well. And the polls officially closed an hour ago. Some people still in line out there, but we're now just seconds away from getting the very first results of the night right here in Maricopa County. So this is what we've been waiting for so long.
We've just been waiting, 2 years to hear those words.
Right.
Maricopa incoming, right? That's from our Garrett Archer, who famously uses those words in the newsroom.
So I think as he was done joining our television audience here, he ran out, tennis shoes on, to start waiting for those numbers to come in. And as soon as they do, they will start populating for us right here on our streaming services throughout the evening so that you can have the most up-to-date numbers when they come in from federal, state, and county races as well, including some mayors that are running tonight. So we have it all.
So many major storylines headed into this night. When you look at the U.S. Senate race, when you look at how big Arizona plays, one of 7 battleground states across the nation where all eyes have been focused on Arizona. And then you come 4 years removed from 2020 and what we saw out of 2020. We know they've tightened up election security. They made sure to let everybody know that they were not playing, no threats, bomb scares that we saw today. Thankfully, they were unsubstantiated.
Yeah, this is some of the similar things that we've seen across the country that have been investigated all throughout the past 24 hours. The person who knows this so well is Nicole Grigg, because she's right out there at MECTEC right now. Nicole?
Yeah, Katie, MECTEC is election headquarters here in Maricopa County, where inside your ballots are being counted. So now with the polls closing, we're expecting those election results any second. I'm sure Garrett's going through them, but inside those 8 p.m. results, those are going to be the early ballots that were mailed in days ago. So those results that we're going to see will be the people who put their ballot in the mail, and those are going to be the results. Now, we can expect 1.2 million votes to be released here in the 8 o'clock hour. So that's about 70 to 75% of those early ballots that have been mailed in. So what can we expect moving forward? Well, as these polls are closing, the workers will be taking out the memory cards from the tabulation machines, and they will be escorted here to MECTEC by law enforcement. They will be brought here and they will be uploaded and the votes will be counted. So in about the 9-10 o'clock hour, we will start to see some of those election day results coming in. So we can expect a long night here. I am told this is a 24/7 operation and they will be working around the clock to get those results in. Katie?
We are watching our alert desk right now. We want to turn it over to Christine Stanwood. What are you seeing so far?
Javier, Katie, like we anticipated, 8 o'clock was going to be a really big hour, not only for Arizona, but across the country. So let's get right into this. AP has just called 2 states. Former President Donald Trump has just won Utah, and former President Donald Trump has just won Montana. By the way, more than half of these states across the country have closed their polls. This is important to note, too. One of the key swing states, Georgia, did experience significant delays in reporting results due to adjudication software. That's in Gwinnett County. So we're going to keep a close eye on that because that is a swing state. The Associated Press also calling former President Donald Trump winning Missouri. But as we take a closer look at the electoral map, that's going to soon change by the hour, by the minute, because we are getting the latest drop here. So let's show you this. DDHQ showing former President Donald Trump has 220 electoral votes. Vice President Kamala Harris with 108. Right now, those numbers could change. Again, that's DDHQ. A key swing state that has been red for a while on DDHQ has been North Carolina, and that has not been officially called by other outlets. But again, that is something that we're going to track very, very closely. We're waiting on several other agencies to also confirm that as well. But several key swing states, Katie, Javier, that we are keeping a close eye on.
Christine, thank you. We're awaiting our first ballot drop of the night just coming into the newsroom, and that's why we want to get right over to Faye.
Faye Fredericks and data analyst Garrett Archer, what are you seeing with our first drop?
Yeah, brand new numbers just coming in from Maricopa County. Garrett, what are we seeing?
Yes, they are not in at the Secretary of State's site quite yet. That's why these numbers are still zero. But at this very moment, Kamala Harris does lead Donald Trump by about 2 points. And what's interesting about that is, as I've told you, Democrats must win Maricopa County by exactly 2 points to win Arizona. So she is on the line already, and it is going to be a knife's edge tonight.
Yeah, a very, very long election here in Arizona. What about the Senate race? What are we seeing?
I haven't had a chance to look at the Senate race. I'm sorry, I got pulled over.
Okay, that's all right. We're keeping Garrett very, very busy tonight. He is definitely earning his keep. But again, that +2 on the Democratic side for Harris in Maricopa County. Again, that doesn't reflect statewide. That is, again, just Maricopa County. These numbers just dropped. And we've been talking about that. This is kind of the push number. If you're a gambler, you know sort of the push number. It's about +2 right now, and that is the push.
Because obviously, vote-rich, Republican vote-rich, Mojave County, Yavapai County, and some of these counties over here, very Republican counties. The rural votes are worth a great deal out here. Pima County only balances out for the Democrats so much, Coconino as well. And so Maricopa, again, the Democrat must perform at least 2 points in Maricopa County. That's where we are right now. It's going to be very interesting night right now. I mean, we are going to be, again, possibly at a knife's edge. The election day vote is going to be crucial.
Okay, and I just saw the Ruben Gallego, Carrie Lake early numbers from Maricopa County come in, and it looks like roughly, again, very rough numbers here, scratched by hand on my pad, but +9 for the Democrats. What does that tell you?
That is a significant lead in Maricopa County for Ruben Gallego. All I'm going to say right now is that is a significant lead for Ruben Gallego. That's why I'll leave it right there.
Okay, and we will continue
I guess
to
what
watch.
I will say.
Go ahead.
I guess what I will say is that without knowing what's going to happen on election night, so in 2020 and 2022, a +9 for the Democrat meant that it was going to be a very close race, and that the Republican had a chance of winning. In fact, Katie Hobbs at 8 o'clock in 2022 was 10 points down, and then Carrie Lake caught up to only losing to Katie Hobbs by about 17,000. So really, we still have a little bit of early vote to be processed, which we won't see until tomorrow. For the rest of the night in Maricopa County, we're going to see Election Day ballots. And again, that trend is going to be crucial because there's only 24,000 separating Harris and Trump. And then again, that 9-point, I don't know what's going to happen, but that Election Day ballot has been very friendly to Republicans in the past couple cycles. And that could not only carry Donald Trump to victory in Arizona, but it could get Carrie Lake to the point where she is in contention for the race as well.
And two other things we want to talk about really quickly with you. There has been a rule change that will affect how long it will take to get some day of voting in.
Yes. So if you've done this before, if you have an early ballot in Arizona and you forgot to mail it or something happened, you can drop it off in a bin at a vote center. And what they used to do is they used to take all these bins, collect them, bring them to the warehouse, and count them all there, and then send them off to run back to processing. Well, the Republican legislature decided that they wanted to have these ballots counted at the vote center. And so now these bins have to be counted. Oh, we just got our numbers here.
There we go. First statewide numbers popping up.
50.7 there. This is what I'm talking about. This is the Maricopa County number, as you can see. So let's move really quick to that U.S. Senate number. That 10-point lead right there. 100,000 votes in that. That is, again, significant. Let's take a look really quick. We're doing this together. The CD1 race. Amish Shah, 50.9 to David Schweikert, 49.1. So what I'm going to tell you is this to me right here, knowing this district, I know this district very well, this signals to me that there's still a lot of Republican energy that's going to show up in that district because David Schweikert does tend to overperform the Republicans there. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Now,
this is the tightest race he's been in recent memory.
That's very tight. I mean, he doesn't typically, in this kind of situation, he doesn't typically show up with that hair of a margin. So it's going to be, again, this Election Day vote when it comes in, and we're not expecting it, as I was trying to finish before this came up, we're not expecting Election Day votes probably till about 9:30 or something. And so that's because these ballots have to be counted. These early ballots, ironically, have to be counted at the vote centers, and then once they are counted, then they can close up the vote center, bring it to the receiving station, and then the receiving station, that's where they bring it to MECTEC, the warehouse, and that's when they insert the Election Day ballots into the, they're already in the tabulator, but the cards that have the results are then inserted into the election management server.
Quickly, I want to look at that other House race that is so critical to control of the House nationally.
We probably don't have that quite yet. Let's see if there's anything there. Nope,
not
no
yet.
data
Okay,
for that one yet,
waiting
so
on
we don't
this
know
one
yet.
still.
Yes, we can though. If you want to look really quick, if you have some time, we can look at some of these other races. AZ House 4. That's interesting. That should have data in it. We'll have to figure out why that doesn't. And then let's see the propositions. Let's see if we have anything there.
I'll tell you what. Why don't we two gather? Here, Prop 139. This is a really big one that a lot of people have been watching. And boy, is this winning convincingly.
Yeah, 69 to 31 right now. Did we have someone pop in yet? No, we haven't had anything in yet. But they're 69 to 31. Let's look at the open primary one. That's interesting, 69 to 31 for the open primary. Now, what is also interesting about that is that there's not enough ballots in there. There's only 300,000 ballots when there's 1 million in Maricopa County. So I'm going to figure out what's going on with that.
Okay, we are going to go back, crunch the numbers a little bit more, and we will get back with you guys in a few minutes.
We are just getting started, folks. We're tracking reaction all night long as these results pour in, and as you just saw right there, in real time.
Yeah, our team coverage continues. Rachel Louise Just with our ABC15 political team is showing us what Republicans are saying about these early numbers that are just coming in these last few minutes. Rachel?
Yeah, I just spoke with the chair of the Arizona Republican Party. She's telling me she's very optimistic. She feels that they put in a very strong ground game. Now, we do know Republicans were able to have a substantial lead when it comes to actually registering voters. Now, obviously, we'll see if that means we actually see turnouts with those ballots, but we do know that Republicans are maintaining a 200,000 ballot advantage right now statewide. Now, those ballots, of course, don't necessarily guarantee a vote for Republicans or for Carrie Lake, but it is a promising sign for the conservative candidate, especially when we talk about that Senate race here with Kari Lake. Now we see, obviously right now with these very early returns, we see a little bit of a lead here for Ruben Gallego, but Kari Lake has been confident in the final weeks of her campaign that she would be victorious, citing internal polling numbers. Now she did tell the press today that she would accept the results, saying that she believed she had put in the work to win this race. Now I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
We want to get to some of these numbers that are just coming in, but first, let's get over to Nick Saletti. He is joining us from the Arizona Democratic Party's election night gathering. The GOP side not having a party.
They weren't. Yeah, they decided not to. Said they were going to use their money somewhere else. Yeah. So let's get over to Nick right now. And Nick, what are you seeing as that first drop happen?
Wow, that's a change there.
Katie, Javi, we're hearing a lot of applause here behind me, because they're showing some of the election results in other states, but you mentioned those Maricopa County results, and I can tell you that Democrats here are still projecting confidence. Even though they know this is going to be down to the wire, they know it is going to be very close, they are still feeling confident that their candidates are going to win, and that includes Kamala Harris. I spoke to one of her campaign people here, and they believe they can peel off enough independent votes across the state to push her across the finish line. In the meantime, you talked about Prop 139, which would enshrine abortion rights in our state in the Constitution. I want to bring in ABC 15's Ashley Holden right now. Ashley, you've reported on this more than anyone else. So when you see that first batch of results showing some strong support, and again, it is early, what goes through your mind? What are you hearing from your sources?
Well, this is what both groups were really anxious to see. It goes too far. I spoke with them earlier today, and they said specifically that they were waiting to see kind of that first ballot drop and some of these results start coming in. I actually just sent the numbers to Arizona for abortion access because they hadn't seen them yet. Again, all of this happening so quickly, but they have had really celebrity support for this proposition. We just heard Mark Kelly when he was on the stage saying we're going to pass this. Now, it goes too far. I've reached back out to them to see how they're feeling after that ballot drop, and also Arizona for abortion access. I'm waiting to hear back, but like I said, these numbers coming in so quickly, and some groups haven't even seen them yet. Now, I want to let you know, you mentioned the crowd that was cheering. They were actually cheering because on the projector, they were showing those early results from Maricopa County with Harris. So we have a lot of people here that are cheering. They're showing Arizona right now.
Right, yeah, it's still early to call, but we'll stay here at Democratic headquarters and give you more of that reaction as the results come in real time.
Yeah, only the first drop, so we'll continue watching all the races, all the propositions very closely. Of course, tonight, control of the state house is up for grabs. Now, these races could have major implications for the rest of Governor Katie Hobbs's term. So let's begin with District 13, and you see no numbers right there. Nothing coming in and nothing showing up on our screen right now.
Yeah, we'll see if there are any for District 16 as well. That's another hot district that we'll be watching very closely throughout the evening, and too early to see any numbers there. 16, not the only one we're watching. 17 could be a close one, but I'm kind of thinking there won't be any numbers in for that just yet.
I think we're just having technical difficulties right now, so it's not populating there on your screen, but we'll continue working on that to try to get you some updated numbers so that we could break those down to you.
What also has been helpful is the ticker along the bottom to give you some of the numbers that are populating from downtown. We want to check in with Christelle Bell as well.
Yeah, guys, we are continuing our conversation because we just looked at these numbers from Maricopa County, these early numbers as they just dropped. And one thing that we were talking about was you're saying that the numbers really are showing that the independents really went hard for the Democrats.
Well, when you look at early vote returns, what you saw was Republicans had a significant advantage over Democratic returns, but there was a sizable independent turnout as well. And when you look at these early returns, there's only one of two things. One is Republicans went hard for Democrats, or a significant number of independents did just that. So, I mean, these returns are impressive. I mean, you know, right now on Election Day, Republicans have an advantage, so that can even things out. But I mean, if you're a Democrat, as a Democrat, I feel pretty good right now.
Yeah. Well, what are you guys saying or seeing?
Yeah, I agree. When you look at this initial batch, and there's still a long ways to go. What's surprising about it to me is how well the Democrat candidates have done when we know that the majority of these early ballots that were returned by Republicans, right? So that goes to Reginald's point. Either a lot of independents went hard for the Democrat candidates, or some combination of Republican switchers.
Right, because now the playing field is so reduced now that you've taken those off the measure. They have no buffer, which I think most people expected they would have, with fewer voters.
There's not a lot
today.
of runway because there are far fewer people who vote on election day than vote by early ballot.
Right.
Again, this is the first batch of early ballots. We don't know what part of Maricopa County they came from. There's a lot of counting yet to do, but the Democrats should feel encouraged by these numbers
These are good numbers for Republicans, and we saw Democrats specifically independents in 2018 really swing hard for Democrats. So obviously their independents a swinging group, but in Arizona they've been a particularly swinging group that can move really hard one way or another, and right now they're clearly in Democrat camp.
Yeah, we know that Kari Lake was saying she was very confident, very optimistic about what she could do. What do you guys think is happening right now in terms of with that race and with Gallego with the lead?
If we just look at Maricopa County and this initial batch, it's not good news for Kari Lake. She's already down by more than 100,000 votes in the initial batch. That's a lot of ground to make up on the first batch of votes.
And there's a delta between her and other Republicans, which is really problematic. It'd be one thing if all the Republicans were down and you could say it was a particular batch or from a particular area, but there is a legitimate delta between her and some other candidates.
She's about 70,000 votes behind Trump in the same batch.
That's a problem.
And let's talk about the overall appeal, because what does that mean with Lake and Trump? Because most of the time we thought seeing Kari Lake automatically vote for Trump. If you vote for Trump, Kari Lake is on that tail with it. How does that play out now?
I mean, one thing that's interesting will be to see how specifically related to Arizona, everything we've been through since the last presidential, how this kind of election denialism and played with independents and moderates. It seems as though that was not a winning strategy, but it's still early.
And to answer your question more specifically, there's only one Donald Trump. He's the OG, right? Everybody else is a facsimile. And she had to establish herself as her own brand, convince voters that she was the right person for this seat. She was unsuccessful doing it when she ran for governor. If these results hold, I think what we say is that Trump did not have coattails for Kari Lake. But again, it's early in the night, at least for Arizona. And so as these returns come in, we'll know more.
Public polling has shown that Lake has consistently been behind Trump among Hispanic men. And we're seeing in other parts that Hispanic men are definitely trending in Trump's direction. That does not seem to have carried over to Kari Lake right now.
Yeah, and what does that mean with Gallego, though, with those Hispanic voters?
I mean, look, I think that Ruben Gallego has an opportunity to make history tonight, and I think he probably will. He'll be the first Hispanic male to be in the United States Senate, which I think, he had an opportunity, and his campaign did a great job of defining who he is. So the public had an opportunity to get introduced to Ruben Gallego. And I do think Kari Lake, she missed the ball on that. I mean, he
had a lot of runway without her being on the airwaves.
I don't know if really he defined himself or he just took the wood chipper to Kari Lake. I think Ruben Gallego smartly realized that if the race were not about him, that would be to his benefit. And this has been more about Kari Lake than about Ruben Gallego.
All right, guys. We're going to continue this discussion, but we're going to send it back to you over there in the studio, Katie and Javier.
All right, Christelle, thank you. A good discussion. We're going to check back in with our panel a little bit later tonight, but we just want to take another look at some of the key races as these early numbers are coming in here in Maricopa County.
And we want to start with the race for Maricopa County Attorney. We know our Office of Investigators. We've covered this office very closely for years. Rachel Mitchell, she is the incumbent right now. She is leading 52% to Tamika Wooten's 47%.
We're also keeping an eye on the race for county sheriff. We want to get to that. And you're seeing Jerry Sheridan with the lead on the Republican side. Not too many numbers in, though, as you can see, only about 10,000 votes already counted here tonight.
Still very early, as well as Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer. He's set to leave the office, and they're looking for his successor. Right now, Tim Stringham is narrowly beating leading Justin He by about 1% or even less than 1% at that.
This race for Maricopa County Assessor, we want to show you those numbers as well. Eddie Cook with 52% of the vote.
All right, you're going to want to stick with ABC 15 all night and catch our continuous election night coverage on ABC 15 on our streaming app, on your TV phone, or you can find us at abc15.com. Thank you for joining us on this election night. I'm Javier Soto.
And I'm Katie Rammel. It is election night, and experts say the presidential race is neck and neck, and control of the House and Senate also on the line tonight.
Some of the big races here in Arizona are House District 2, where former Navajo Nation President Jonathan Nez is challenging incumbent Eli Crane. We're looking at those numbers right now. Eli Crane, the incumbent here, at 60% compared with Jonathan Nez's 39%.
And in House District 6, a bit of a rematch between Republican incumbent Juan Ciscomani, who narrowly defeated Democrat Kristen Engel in 2022. The first round of ballots just dropped in Arizona. There you're seeing those numbers we just talked about. Let's send it over to Faye Fredericks and Garrett Archer for a little bit more on the very latest.
And this is where we really start to appreciate Garrett even more than we do every single day, because you have the ability to really go inside these numbers that we're seeing. And I want to start here. Let's start with this race right here.
I was playing around.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, let's take a look at it real quick.
So anyway, that CD2 race, what's interesting about this, 64-35, that's a huge margin for Eli Crane, of course. But as you can see, we only have Yavapai reporting. Coconino hasn't reported yet, which is a Democratic county, as well as Apache. And Apache's probably not going to report for quite some time because they have a couple of precincts or vote centers that are allowed to remain open until 9 o'clock. So this is going to be a race that goes long into the night. But still, this is a plus 10, plus 15 Republican race as far as the fundamentals. And so Eli Crane is still expected to win.
Let's take a look at the top of the ticket here and take a look at the presidential race right now and go inside the numbers in the counties here.
So yes, right now, as you can see, we have almost all of central Arizona is reporting. Now, central Arizona is also the most Democratic part of Arizona. As you can see, Coconino reporting for this race, Maricopa County, Pima County, Pinal County, all these, and then we have two very Republican districts here, Yavapai and Mojave. So this is a good mix of the state right now. And you can see Kamala Harris slim lead, 50.2 to 49% against Donald Trump, but we don't have everything reported yet. La Paz County, very small county, but Donald Trump will win that handily. Gila County, again, small, Donald Trump will win it. I guess if I were Kamala Harris, I'd be very worried about Cochise County, Graham County, still not very big. Yuma County, of course, that's a big one because it's a slightly larger county, medium size. And again, she's only holding on to a 20,000 vote lead right now. And this is without knowing what the election day trends are going to be. So this lead could evaporate very quickly.
Yeah. Okay. Let's flip it over to the Senate race and take a look at those numbers and go into the counties now.
Yes. So, okay, we have one reporting here. We have Navajo County reporting here as well. 53 to 45, Ruben Gallego leading by 133,000 votes. So you can tell just off the bat when you look at these two numbers, 20,000 Trump versus Harris versus 150,000 split ticket in just the counties that we're reporting in this race. 150,000, and this is still only 52% of the vote. So if this trend holds, about 300,000 people would have changed their votes from a Republican for Donald Trump and then for Ruben Gallego in the Senate.
Does Kari Lake have the opportunity to pick up in these other counties like you said Donald
Trump
has?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, she will most likely, I don't want to say definitely, because, but she will most likely narrow this with still waiting for Yuma to report and Cochise County. This one right here, this little white spot right there, that is Santa Cruz County. It is a very Democratic county, but it is also a very small county.
And more of our election night coverage to come.
You're going to want to stick with ABC15 all night for our continuous election coverage on ABC15 streaming apps as well as ABC15.com. America Votes 2024. Thank you very much for sticking with us all night here for our election coverage as it continues.
So we want to get you up to speed on pretty much the two biggest contests of the night here in Arizona, starting with the race for the White House. And Garrett just touched on it as we met up with our television audience. And as we join you back here on streaming devices at this hour, here's how the numbers look at this very moment. A 20,000 vote difference between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump right here in Arizona. And as Garrett just showed moments ago on some of those maps, waiting on Santa Cruz County, Cochise County, and that could be the difference maker in that 20,000. So we'll watch it as the next drop comes in. But for now, Kamala Harris with more than 800,065 votes.
Let's look at the U.S. Senate race here, and this is Ruben Gallego. He's up by 52% to Kari Lake's 45%. Right now, Governor Katie Hobbs is taking the podium at the Democratic headquarters. Let's listen in right now.
I am so happy to be here share with all of you while we nervously wait for results. I know that we are all eager to find out who won all of these incredibly important races, but we're going to need to be patient and wait for every vote to be counted, because every single vote matters and every single vote counts equally, whether you voted by mail, whether you dropped off your ballot at a ballot drop box, or you voted in person today. And I have every confidence that our counties administered this election free and fairly, and the results will be accurate. But they're going to take time, so we have to prepare for a really long evening, a really long couple of days, and make sure that all of those votes are counted. But as we've seen the first results come in, I know that we're feeling good about what we're seeing here in Arizona, and that is thanks to all of the hard work that all of you in this room put in, and a lot of people that aren't here with us. You all made calls, you knocked on doors, you talked to your friends and family and neighbors about what's at stake in this election. And most importantly, you got out and voted. And we knew that this was going to be a tough race. We knew that things were going to be close. And I know that we put every single thing we had out there to make sure that we are victorious. So thank you all so much for everything that you did. I'm looking forward to having a legislature that's going to work with me to deliver for Arizonans. And stop sending me bills that I have to veto. So again, I know that you all worked so hard this election because you knew what was at stake. We're going to have to wait a little bit longer to know that that work paid off. But I'm just so grateful to be in this fight with all of you. Thank you all so much. And while we wait, make sure you have a great night. Thank you all.
There was our Governor Katie Hobbs talking about the first batch of results and showing and talking about some optimism of what she could potentially have in the legislature, state legislature.
That's right. And I want to note, you might also be getting some push alerts on your phone right now. 3 U.S. House districts called in Arizona: District 3, Yasmin Ansari; District 4, Greg Stanton; and House District 7, Raul Grijalva, all just called. We'll get to the details and drill down on the numbers in that in just a minute, but I want to get right out to Nick Saletti. A huge crowd out there behind you, Nick.
Katie Javier, that's right. Governor Katie Hobbs just wrapped up speaking, and you heard her project some positivity to the crowd. She mentioned a number of things. First and foremost, she talked about people needing to be patient with the results, but said that they like what they were seeing so far. She also mentioned the possibility of flipping the Arizona legislature. Obviously, for her first 2 years in office, she's been working with divided government, but she's still projecting some positivity, even though those results are incredibly close. And I'll tell you this, I just got done speaking with someone from Kamala Harris's campaign who's been working here in Arizona since May. And even though it's been back and forth and the margins are extremely close, the Harris campaign is still thinking they can win Arizona, especially if they can flip enough of that independent vote. They told me it is going to be a very long night, a very long few days, but they are still confident that they can win Arizona despite that slim margin. Now, I've also been speaking with members of the Trump campaign. They like their position right now. They like the polls going into today, and they're also projecting a lot of confidence. So still anyone's guess to see who exactly is going to go away with Arizona's 11 electoral votes. Obviously, we've been watching Prop 139 too, the abortion ruling as well. They're seeing a lot of confidence in that. It's given this room a lot of reason to cheer. But they're not defeated on anything yet. They're still projecting a lot of confidence tonight, guys.
Hey, thank you, Nick. We're now on the Republican side, and again, the state opted not to host an election night celebration this year, but there's still a lot to talk about, so we want to turn to our Rachel Louise Judge. She's here in studio with more. I know you're on the phone constantly talking with these folks. What's the mood from the Republican side?
Yes, still a lot of optimism from the Republicans. I just finished speaking with the Republican Party chair for the state of Arizona. She's feeling really good, saying that they had a strong ground game. Now, remember, they registered a lot more people than the Democrats and the independents did across the state over the last couple of months. We are waiting still to hear from Carrie Lake on that Senate race after those very early results show that she's been considerably trailing Ruben Gallego. Lake is not holding an election party tonight. Instead, she's watching the results from home. I did just check minutes ago on Carrie Lake's social media, and she has not yet made any comments on her race with Ruben Gallego. She has said, in regards to a race in New Jersey, to not trust race calls from the media. The Senate race hasn't been competitive, at least in polling, for a few months now, but Lake has consistently said that in the final weeks of her campaign, she would be victorious, citing her internal polling.
I will accept the results of the election, and I have had a few concerns, but we've done a lot of legwork to prevent any problems.
Said that she would accept the results of the election. That is notable because in the past she has said that she would not make, or she has not said whether or not she would make that commitment. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you very much. We want to continue to break down the results here. We have our data guru in the house, Garrett Archer, as well as Faye Fredericks, and they continue to get these results and continue to give us insight that only they can give.
Yeah, let's look closer at some of these numbers.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. And again, remember, control of the White House, control of the Senate, control of the House, the U.S. House, all runs potentially through Arizona. We've talked a little bit about the Senate with Rachel there. Let's talk a little bit about these House races now. Two highly competitive House races. Yes. What's happening?
This was considered one of the most competitive in the country, and it's definitely turning out to be that way right now. Challenger Dr. Amish Shah, the Democrat, is winning 50.9% to David Schweikert's 49.1%. As you can see, that is a very slim lead, 4,700%. And like I said, what that says to me is that there's still a good chance that there are some Republican votes out there, because this district is a very Republican district.
Yeah, and this, again, David Schweikert is the incumbent here. This is really the furthest he has been pushed in a race in quite a long time.
Oh, yes. I mean, well, like I said, right now we say 63% of the vote. Now, while I said that this is a Republican district, I'm actually referencing things from 2020 and 2018, or excuse me, 2020 and 2022, when Republicans really did vote en masse on election day. So if that doesn't happen, if those trends don't show up the same way that they did in those last two races or those last two cycles, then this might be, this is a problematic number, of course. So yeah, we're just going to have to see what happens when we start seeing those election day votes.
Yeah, only about 4,700 votes separate the two men. Yes. This is one we are going to be watching very, very closely. Okay, let's talk about CD6 now.
There it goes. Okay, so this one, as you can see, we do have some numbers in. We are still missing Cochise County for this race, so this is not quite a full number yet. So while Kirsten Engel, the Democrat, is winning this 54 to 44%, a large percentage of the vote share in this race is not even counted yet. So we really don't know where the starting point is for this quite yet. And so we just have to keep waiting. Right now, obviously, Tucson, this is a very Democratic area, and Cochise balances that out. And so, like I said, we're going to have to just wait.
Yeah, and roughly 24,000 votes between the two competitors right here. Oh. Okay, District 8 right now.
Yeah, District 8, this is a very, as you can see, this is a West Valley district. This was really competitive in the primary. Hamadeh winning 54% to 46%. Again, this is something that sort of indicates to me that there's probably still Republican votes left out there, because this number being how solid of a Republican district this district is, this should expand. And we'll see the same thing if we go to CD5. Andy Biggs versus Katrina Schaefer, 57 to 42%. You can see how large that number is. That should even expand a little more.
Okay, we are going to keep crunching the numbers. We'll send it back to you guys for now, and we'll come and rejoin you shortly.
Yeah, we're tracking all these numbers closely, just seeing Trump taking the lead here in Arizona, leading by just 1,000 votes at this point. So.
Yeah, and for more of the breakdown of what we're seeing across the country, we want to turn to Christine right now in our alert desk. Christine.
Hey, guys. Yeah, we are getting new updates by the second. This is a big change that we're seeing. So we're going to go based off of ABC News. Former President Donald Trump winning several states here. We've got Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, Ohio, Mississippi. These have all just been recently projected by ABC News. We will say that former, Vice President Kamala Harris AP has called her to win the District of Columbia. We're also keeping a close eye on still some long lines of polling places in Nevada. Again, those are some key battleground states. That's one of them. Again, Arizona, the top one that we're keeping a close eye here at home. Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, as I just mentioned, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. But let's get a last check of that electoral count based on ABC News. And that is looking at 210 for electoral votes for former President Donald Trump. Vice President Kamala Harris, 91. We're going to send things back to you.
All right, Christine, thank you. Looks like we want to go check in with Ashley Holden, who is at the Democratic headquarters.
Yeah, and we have been watching Proposition 139 and these first drops of ballots come in. And remember, this is really a proposition that we have been watching for quite some time. It's pushed to get on the ballot, and now here that it is on the ballot. And Arizona for Abortion Access saying that they are feeling really good about this first drop of ballots. Now, it goes too far, saying this first drop is really not what they wanted. Now, I want to remind you what Proposition 139 would do. It would enshrine the right to an abortion in the Arizona Constitution up to the point of viability. Now, there would be some exceptions. It Goes Too Far has said for months, calling this extreme, saying that they have medical safety concerns. But of course, Arizona for Abortion Access has had a lot of support, and a lot of support obviously here at the Democratic Watch Party. Almost every speaker has mentioned Proposition 139 and how they are saying that this is going to pass. But again, obviously these are early numbers and we are watching them very, very closely. I am reaching out to all my sources every few minutes as we get more numbers coming in to talk to them about how they are feeling. But I was mentioning to people here that as we were watching people cover those polling locations, we were seeing supporters of Proposition 139 that were out there last minute talking to voters that were in line before they cast their ballot. So we're going to be watching these numbers very, very closely and also staying in touch with both of these groups. Again, It Goes Too Far and Arizona for Abortion Access. And this is something we're going to be watching really closely here on ABC 15.
Thank you, Ashley. And all of this coming in real time. So we continue to update you. We continue to talk about it and break this down and add some perspective of what's going on tonight.
Let's send it right over to Christelle and our panel there in the Results Center with how they're reading things. I see them all busy on their phones, Christelle.
Yeah,
these
they
numbers
are busy on their phones.
come in real time.
Yeah, so this is the thing. We were talking about Proposition 139, and we heard Ashley talking about it as well. You know, it has been said, it was expected that this would be a big win. You know, some have estimated as much as by 20 points. Of course, those numbers are still early, but we also thought about races whose outcomes may have been tied to Proposition 139, including U.S. Senate race with Kari Lake. At this point, guys, answer this. Is this why voters were not voting straight ballots this year?
I think it's...
Senator's going to start with you, Brian.
I am struck that 139 was not more a part of Democrats' campaign. It seemed to be its own campaign. I don't feel like it was sort of fused with the Senate campaign or the presidential campaign. Unlike, let's say, in 2004, when Bush was running for re-election and he used gay marriage initiative to register Republicans and bring Republicans into the fold. Democrats really didn't do that. And to your point, this was always going to be a big victory. It was really just a question of how many. But I don't feel like Democrats really capitalized on this as much as I expected them to.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I would say is when you look at, this proposition, it actually has more votes than any other ballot measure or any candidate. 1.1 million votes tonight, and I think that's going to increase. I think what you'll see is, no matter who wins at the presidential level, this proposition will have more votes than any of them. I mean, I don't know. If you look at current trends, there may be more folks who decided to, vote for Prop 139 and also Democratic candidates who are talking about pro-choice issues. So,
but this was supposed to help Democrats. I mean, part of the reason to do it now at this particular period in time was to help Democrat candidates. And I just don't feel like Harris talked a lot about it when she was out here. Gallego obviously supported it, but not to the same extent. I just don't think Democrats utilized it as well as they could have, especially considering
Brian, it's still early.
Sure.
But these early returns for Democrat candidates they are overperforming compared to the number of registered Republicans who turned in those ballots. So you have to ask yourself what drove those Republican crossovers or those Republican undervotes. We'll probably never really know, but this margin on Proposition 139 is very large. So how much of this abortion issue weigh in the minds of Republican and independent voters who cast an early ballot that have been counted in this first batch?
And I think
All right, we apologize cutting away from them, but we wanted to show you this here. It appears as far as the U.S. president race, we'll be right back after this break.
All right, we're back talking about Proposition 139 here. We were listening to you, Mike, talk about what was your insight as far as what's happening, and could this be why voters were not voting straight on the ballot this year?
I mean, when you have an electorate that is this close, anything that pushes a voter or voter bloc in a certain direction is valuable. I think that there is an argument to be made that it could have been pushed in a more strategic way to help other races. However, there's not a. I think you can't argue the fact that it doesn't help Democrats regardless.
And I'll just say this, from, every Democratic candidate that was running, from organizations on the ground like Lucha, Our Voice, Our Vote, these groups, they were all talking about Prop 139. The opening grassroots script was, there's an abortion ban, at 15 weeks, and we want to make sure that women could protect their right to choose. So, the conversation happened, the collaboration between the campaign, I think, is one that emerged eventually, but I mean, these results are definitely one that, of course, we'll be watching all night, and we won't know everything tonight. But I do think the abortion initiative played a significant role.
But part of that also, regarding, we've talked about sort of what's going on here, but it's also Trump has really done a good job of sort of blunting the magnitude of that issue. I mean, he has really sort of, because of his position sort of evolved on abortion, especially in this campaign, it doesn't seem to have hurt him in the way that it was clearly expected to, because yes, there's still a lot of votes left to come in, but we're still talking about the same pool of votes as of now, and Trump is winning, and 139's up 20 points.
But to that point, Trump has evolved, I would say, even on the abortion issue. I mean, you ask Trump one day where he's at, and then you ask him the next day. I think he's evolved too, and I think, the position that I would say now is that, if Donald Trump does win, I think it would be very difficult for him to, try to say that he supports a national ban after he's done so many backflips.
I know we might have time, but I wanted to just tie in. What about the two House races with the incumbents, with Schweikert and also with Siscomani? Like, how did that also kind of play into this, do you think?
Well, a lot of the ads against Schweikert at the very end were very abortion focused. So even though in previous campaigns against Schweikert, that was really not part of the equation, they have really Shaw really drilled in on that at the end. It's a bit of a square peg in a round hole, because obviously that's the initiative 139 is a state initiative, and we're talking about the federal level, but they really used that to go after Schweikert at the end. But I guess to my point earlier, I thought we'd see more of that.
Alrighty, good conversation. We'll continue this roundtable discussion, but we're sending it back to you guys in the studio. B.
Well, earlier tonight, the chair of Arizona's Democratic Party speaking pretty confident about the party's ability here to win some big races tonight.
All the pundits of the world have said that Arizona is red country, that Arizona will not flip blue. But I've spoken to folks from every county and every corner of our state over the last few months, from Phoenix to Safford, Winslow to Prescott, from San Luis to Nogales, and I know that Arizona is in play.
And with the polls closed, the line is complete now at ASU, where some waited more than an hour to cast their ballot. We were able to talk with the last voter who got in line just before 7 o'clock.
Really just the last push. I felt like my opinion mattered, so even if it's one vote, it could matter.
the last vote
Yep.
here.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
How do you feel about being the last one?
I didn't expect it. I thought I was just making it last minute. I'm kind of last minute to things, but it worked out.
Some of the other races that are coming in, the numbers on Arizona's ballots.
Yeah, again, Arizona's deciding who will represent them in Congress. So let's start with House District 4, where incumbent Greg Stanton was challenged by Kelly Cooper. That race has been called in favor of Greg Stanton.
And to Congressional District 5 includes parts of Mesa, Chandler, Gilbert, Queen Creek, and Santan Valley. Katrina Schaffner challenging incumbent Andy Biggs. Biggs is seeking his 5th term in office, and that race called for Andy Biggs.
Let's turn to U.S. House District 7, where Raul Grijalva has held that seat for some time. He is running away. That one has also been called in his favor.
So we want to also check back in now on the top races of the night for you.
In the race for the president here in Arizona, just a short while ago, we saw former President Donald Trump taking the lead. Doesn't reflect in those numbers there, but it is a very close race so far.
Yeah, Trump at the last check from the Secretary of State's website was leading by about 2,200 votes. In a quick look at the U.S. Senate, Ruben Gallego leading with almost 1 million votes right there. We're going to take a short break to meet up with our TV audience. Back with you in a moment.